Fighting that is continued in the capital of South Sudan Tuesday, a day after the president accused supporters of his political rival of attempting a coup. VOA's Gabe Joselow now joins us live via Skype from neighboring Kenya with the latest. Hi, Gabe, and thanks for joining us yet again.
Hi, thanks, Ndimyake.
What do we know today that we didn't know yesterday about what brought all this situation about?
Well, there's still a lot of questions that we're trying to answer at this point, but we've seen some continuation of the fighting that began yesterday in what President Salva Kiir has said was an attempted coup orchestrated by the supporters of the former Vice President Riek Machar. So today we know that the government has arrested about 10 senior members of the former government, including a lot of cabinet ministers who were dismissed in a big cabinet reshuffle in July, and that they are still searching for former Vice President Machar, as well as a couple other members of that group.
What do we know about the casualties?
Casualty figures are still a little tough to figure out. People are sort of holing up inside Juba to avoid some of the fighting, but we're hearing numbers of dead in the 60s or 70s. The number of wounded could be much higher than that. This is civilian and military casualties.
Gabe, what do we know? You just mentioned, of course, some of what happened yesterday, but the source of what triggered the lone gunman, as Mr. Kiir described him, to start shooting. Is there any information on that?
Well, really all we've had so far is the government's description of what may have happened, and they're saying that these loyalists to Mr. Machar began shooting outside of a party conference, that is a political party conference, and then the fighting spread to the army barracks in the capital. We haven't been able to hear from Mr. Machar or a lot of the people around him. There's reports that they could be on the run, that they certainly don't seem to be in Juba anymore. So we haven't really had the other side of the story. We know that this group has been very critical of Mr. Kiir in the past. Machar in particular has been an outspoken critic of the president. So there have been tensions going on for a long time. The fact that it's boiled over is not so much of a surprise, although the intensity of this fighting has certainly taken everybody off guard.
Now, what about what is being put in place to contain the fighting so that it doesn't spread and become any worse than it is already?
Well, the government has put soldiers out on the streets. They've got regular patrols. The reports we're hearing now is that things have calmed down quite a bit. They've also been going door to door at night looking for people who could be responsible for some of the fighting. Again, it's hard to get really accurate information at this point since a lot of our sources are holed up inside waiting for the go-ahead to come out. There's also a curfew at night, which prevents any movement, on the streets. So it's a little murky.
Well, thank you so much, Gabe Joselow, for that insight and update on what's going on in South Sudan. That's, of course, VOA's Gabe Joselow reporting live by Skype from Nairobi, Kenya.